Good evening. Welcome to our Concerned Citizens for Good Government meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 19th. So close to the Christmas holidays, we will not have a formal meeting, but we will have a social gathering for celebration of Christmas. So everyone is welcome to attend. Bring your family, bring your friends. Our next scheduled meeting after Christmas would be the first Monday in January, but that falls on January 2nd. So that's another holiday. So our next regularly scheduled meeting, formal meeting for the Concerned Citizens for Good Government, is January 16th, 2017. The middle of January.
Good evening. We're certainly, this gentleman doesn't need any introduction. He has been here before and is doing a great job with the school system. His name is JustinCincenni. He's in District 6. And Justin was elected representative to District 6 on Lafayette Parish School Board in November 2014. Since then, he has been appointed as chairman of the School Board Finance Committee and instrumental in establishing Workplace Elementary as a 100% French immersion elementary school, fulfilling a campaign promise of assembly, of accessibility, and accountability. He holds town hall meetings in District 6 once per month during the school year to give teachers, parents, and any Lafayette Parish resident with an interest in public education a forum to provide feedback on the performance of their school system. His next meeting is that we're hoping to have this possibly taken care of. He'll announce this tonight before he leaves. And we appreciate that very much. Justin is also the Vice President of the Finance Department of Iberia Bank, focusing on business and analytics. He is also a graduate of Nicholas State University, earning a bachelor's degree in computer information system with a minor in math. He lives in the St. Street area with his wife Marie and 3 young children, and he has one of his children here. She's in the 4th grade, I believe. Correct on that?
That's the 1st grade.
Oh, I'm sorry, but she seemed to be so grown up she could have been. But we appreciate you coming and being with us this evening, young lady. Thanks a lot. We're happy to have you here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carroll. Thank you very much. Always exciting to come and speak with you and share the positive aspects and what the school board is doing to improve education in Lafayette Parish. To Mr. Carroll's words about my monthly district meeting, what I've done, or what I've agreed to do, is to hold it here with you guys on December 19th. They said you guys aren't having a regular meeting, you're just going to have a social. So I'm going to announce that I'm going to have my meeting here after your social. Hopefully we'll get some additional parents and people interested in the school system to come over here and visit with everybody. And we'll be able to talk about school system stuff again in 2 weeks. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Try to get this up just a little bit. How do I do that? Otherwise I'll just sit up here and scream. There we go. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So, the school board at the beginning of November, we had two big pieces of news in November. At the beginning of November, the culmination of about 18 months of work on a comprehensive rezoning plan for Lafayette Parish. And what brought that about was when this school board took office in early 2015, we took a look at the enrollments and the number of classrooms in each of our schools. And part of this was during the discussion about the new high school in Youngsville, where we found that Como High was drastically overpopulated with an additional group of students. It was going to grow some more in the next 5 years with the number of students in middle school. So we decided to build a new high school. And when we did that, we decided to gather the data for all of our schools. And what we found was that roughly 70% of our classrooms, like the physical classrooms, are in the city of Lafayette, where roughly 70% of our student population is outside the city of Lafayette. And so we had a real student distribution problem as far as utilizing our current facilities. And before we were, as a part of the discussion about upgrading additional facilities, replacing temporary classrooms, we had to go to the taxpayers and say, look, we're trying to do the best that we can with what we have. And so we came up with a plan for the entire parish. We hired a demographer to draw our attendance zones and try to balance the student population in the schools and use the existing classrooms that we have in an effort to not only get children out of portable buildings, but also to rectify what frankly is the shift in population in Lafayette Parish over the last 40 years. I mean, where people live, where school-aged children live, looks drastically different now than it did in 1980. And we were still living with attendance zones from the early 1980s. So we undertook that. It was I don't think anyone would say it was pleasant. I don't think anybody would say that it was, they were looking forward to it and they were excited that we did it, but it was one of the hard decisions that I feel like this board was elected to make in the best interest of the school system for the long term. And I'm proud to say that we did it. Now, as far as District 6 goes, there was a lot of rezoning at the elementary school level. There was no rezoning at the high school level for District 6. So everybody who lived in District 6, they were already zoned for Lafayette High School. They remained zoned for Lafayette High School. Some of the neighborhoods were rezoned for Woodvale as opposed to perhaps S.J. Montgomery. I think there were a couple of neighborhoods zoned for Prairie Elementary as opposed to S.J. Montgomery. And then we took some children from north of Cameron Street and moved them into S.J. Montgomery to relieve some overcrowding at Alice Boucher. But if anybody has any particular questions about the rezoning itself or the process we went to, I'll be happy to take those. But overall, I'm very happy with how it turned out. You know, the goals were to, as a part of our desegregation settlement, we had this group of elementary school zones along Cameron Street going towards the thruway, and they had students from that area going to Broadmoor, and students from that area going to Plantation Elementary, students from that area going to Prairie Elementary. And so these students, what we heard or what we found was they were on buses for an hour or more each way, going to and from school each day. And their parents, in some cases, would say, you know, we can see the school that I wish they would go to, but you've got me going across town to go to another school. Would you please do something about that? And so one of the things that the zones are going to do, by and large, with some very minor exceptions, the school that you live closest to, that's the school you go to. You know, and that wasn't necessarily the case in a lot of instances. So that's really a benefit for the students. It keeps them off the buses. They don't have to get up as early. I mean, you know, it's a shame when kids, they go to school before it's light and they get home after it's dark. So hopefully we do that. We get rid of that. Some of the classrooms are overcrowded. We're going to relieve some of that and reduce classroom sizes as well. You know, overall, I think it was a good process, and I'm happy with the way it turned out. Does anybody have any questions about how we went about that, or would you like me to wait until the end to take the questions? I'll wait until the end. That's fine. The second big piece of news, and the thing that made us very, very proud, was our academic report card for the district came out a couple of weeks ago, and revealed that we made tremendous progress. We moved from the 27th ranked school system in the state to the 19th ranked school system in the state. We remain a B school district. We are a very, very high B school district. There are only 2 B school districts ahead of us. I think it's St. Mary and Acadia parishes are the only B school districts ahead of us. So when we hired Dr. Aguilar in the spring of 2015, we asked him to come up with a strategic plan to get us to be an A school district by the time his contract was up, which was a 4-year contract. And he came up with his plan, and he has done a very good job implementing it at the very beginning and making positive strides. So our school district score is made up of several subcomponents, and at the high school level, those are things like graduation rate, the ACT score, and at the elementary and middle school level, those are made up of primarily the standardized tests that the students take at the end of each year. And I'm happy to say that at every level, elementary, middle, and high school, excuse me, in every subcategory that makes up this score, we made positive gains. And the schools themselves get an academic score, and 85% of our schools made academic gains last year. And a big attribution from Dr. Aguilar's words were when he first got hired, he sat down with all of his principals in a big meeting, and he said, you know what, guys, here's the goal. You're going to focus on achievement. You're going to get in the classroom. You're not going to be a hands-off manager. And he directed them to spend 40% of their time in classrooms, seeing their teachers teach, giving their teachers the meaningful feedback that teachers need, frankly, to get better. And it's always great to have somebody who is helping you succeed and collaborating with you on what the children need, as opposed to being in there and trying to figure it out yourself. So I give Dr. Aguilar and his staff, the teachers, just all the credit in the world, because it's no small achievement to get an organization our size, everybody pulling in the same direction. And that's the only way that we're ever going to achieve the goals that we set forth, is to get everybody pulling in the same direction. So it was a really great first step. We're really proud of the progress that our students and teachers and administrators have made over the past year. And I feel confident that we're going to keep this moving forward and keep making that same progress in the years to come. So I really just kind of intended those two topics to be a discussion starter, if you like, because that's the broad strokes of what has happened over the last few months, the last year and a half as well. And those were the two big ticket items, if you will, that came out in the month of November. So if anybody has any particular questions about that or any other topic, I'll be happy to take those.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you coming out, particularly on a bad weather day. I have a few questions. About a month ago, Dr. Aguilar made his presentation, and he was anticipating highlights and improvements in the school testing results. And he appeared to be very optimistic because of the preliminary information that was being received with reference to all the test scores and everything. And I know since Dr. Aguilar was here, his projections or his thoughts have been proven correct. And I was wondering if you could comment on that.
If you go back and you look at Dr. Aguilar's history as a superintendent, he was the superintendent for 11 years in St. Mary Parish from 2004 to 2015 when we hired him. And in that time, I'm trying to get these numbers correct, but I think he moved St. Mary Parish from the 45th ranked school system to number 17 in terms of achievement and district letter grade, district performance score. I'm not surprised to hear that the preliminary information he received, that his assertions have turned out to be correct, because this is a man that has done it before and knows what goes into achieving this kind of rating and this kind of performance score. And so the plan, like, he's taken everything he learned in 11 years in St. Mary Parish. And it's worth pointing out, when I said there are two districts that are rated as a B that are still ahead of us, St. Mary is one of them. So they've done a very nice job of maintaining their momentum that they had from under his leadership. And so I trust fully that if he tells us that A comes in and we're seeing improvement there, and that's going to mean this as far as our performance score, I'm going to take that to the bank, because I think he knows exactly what he's talking about given his track record. It's also worth pointing out too that we now have, I want to say, two of our high schools moved from a C to a B. Acadiana and Como both moved from a C to a B. So I think Lafayette High is an A high school, Como and Acadiana are Bs, David Thibodeau is an A. Northside remains a D, but it has seen back-to-back years of double-digit growth in their performance score. So I foresee that they will be a C very soon.
My next question, and you touched upon that, was that there was some comprehensive rezoning going on with reference to several of the high schools. And I had understood that Lafayette High may have lost some really nice or really effective programming, and Como High School may have picked up the performing arts. So I was wondering how that was working out.
So it hasn't been implemented yet. That's going to be implemented in the fall of 2017. To fill you in, if you don't know the full story, Lafayette High has two what we call academies that are a part of our schools of choice. That means any student in the parish can attend school at Lafayette High if they're a part of these two programs. And right now, those are the Academy of Health Careers and the Academy of Performing Arts. And what it turned out, to give you the broad strokes, is that Lafayette High has just a little under 2,500 students in a school that was initially built for 1,500 students. Como, after the chunk of students move to Southside High next year, will be down to just under 1,000 students. And so we were faced with the task of how do we fill Como, or not even fill Como, but how do we get Como to a reasonable size? How do we reduce Lafayette High to, frankly, we weren't even going to get it down to a reasonable size. It was still going to be overcrowded, but how do we just relieve some of that? And so what we kind of decided was that it would have been, and this is my opinion as well, it would have been unfair to rezone someone away from Lafayette High to make room for children who aren't zoned for Lafayette High to attend school. And so what we did was we chose to move the Performing Arts Academy to Como High School, in part because I think it's like the largest percentage of students in that academy are actually in Como High zone. So there would be some transportation savings in having the performing arts at that school. And it would also reduce the population at Lafayette High at the same time without rezoning immediately. So it hasn't happened yet. I have a lot of confidence in the teachers and staff to make it work. I mean, it's a great program, and I think Lafayette High is going to be just fine with the programming that it retains.
Of concern to me is how are our lowest performing schools doing? Are they making any real progress with reference to the test scores, in reference to their program improvement? And can you cite examples?
Absolutely. So our we no longer have any F schools outside of our MP Moss Preparatory Academy, which is our alternative school for children with discipline issues. So that's a positive start. We no longer have any F schools outside of that one. J.W. Falk Elementary School, Alice Boucher Elementary School, Karen Crowe Heights Elementary School. Those are our, Dr. Aguilar calls them emerging schools. Those are schools with a D status. J.W. Falk in particular was just cited by the Louisiana Department of Education as a top gain school for 2015, which means that they grew, I think the actual categorization is they grew by 15 points in their school performance score. They were one of 3 in Acadiana, not just Lafayette Parish, but Acadiana, to be named the top gain school. And that was traditionally our poorest performing school. So it was a tribute to the administrators and the teachers at J.W. Falk, that they're getting the curriculum and the kids in the classroom ready to learn, getting the education that the kids need, and closing the achievement gap in those schools so that they can, you know, the trick is, as Dr. Aguilar will tell you repeatedly, the trick is to get a kid to 9th grade on time. If a kid gets to 9th grade behind, the chances that he or she becomes a dropout more than triples. And so the trick is, maybe they're behind in 2nd grade, maybe they're behind in 4th grade. The trick is you've got to get them on time by the time they get to 9th grade, otherwise you're going to lose them. And so that's what I really give him a lot of credit for focusing on, and getting the improvement at these elementary school levels and at the middle school levels, which is going to translate into success at the high school level, not just in graduation rate, but also getting children graduated, ready to go earn a living and support themselves.
With reference to the graduation rates, have they improved or not improved over the last year here in Lafayette Parish?
So the graduation rate that we received in the spring was just a tick over 75%, which was up, I think, 7 percentage points over the prior year. And it's important to realize or remember that graduation rate is a is a rolling average of what did that year's class, I think we were discussing this before the meeting, what did that year's class do? And they start the clock when a child enters 9th grade, and then 4 years later, if that child hasn't graduated with a diploma, then they don't count for your graduation rate. It's only the children who you graduate. So at the moment, this past 4-year cohort, we had 75% of them graduate. Now that doesn't mean that 25% of the children who entered 9th grade 4 years ago are out in the streets and walking around with no education. We have several alternative programs where they can get GEDs, and they can maybe they drop out and they come back and earn their diploma within 5 years or 6 years, which is just in some respects even more important to us. That the kid who drops out, we get them back, and we get them even if they're 20 years old, we get them with a diploma and a way to go out into the world and earn a living and get a job, as opposed to the child who's always going to graduate all the time. The bigger difference, I think, is those kids who may not be in that 75% initially, but are eventually.
Just a follow-up question. You had mentioned that there's a 7% increase over graduation rate last year. Does that mean anything with reference to future graduating rates?
I think you can probably see either you shouldn't really, you should, if the graduation rate is moving in a certain direction, it'll tend, kind of like Newton's law of motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. The inertia of, you see a graduation rate on the rise, it'll likely continue to rise, maybe not by 7 percentage points each year, but maybe a smaller gain each year, because these children that just graduated, they also, the children behind them are going through the same schools, the same teachers, the same administrators. And so what makes one group of children successful by and large will make the group of children behind them successful as well. So I would expect you may not see a 7% gain year over year. This may have been a little bit of an anomaly. But over the past couple of years, the graduation rate has been on the rise. I would expect it to continue to rise.
Justin, this is my final question. I read in the paper that Act 1 was reviewed by one of the appellate courts. The appellate court made a ruling that Act 1 did not authorize unlimited authority to the school superintendent, rather finding that the school superintendent is bound by certain policy decisions made by respective local school board. My impression, reading the paper and not seeing a lot of controversy as we did when Superintendent Cooper was here, is that there's no Act 1 issues that have balled up, and I was wondering what your opinion on that was.
I think all 9 of us got very familiar with Act 1 when we were running 2 years ago. And if there's one thing that Dr. Cooper, that you can say that he contributed to statewide education policy as a whole, is a very clear understanding of what Act 1 means and where the responsibilities lie between the school boards and the superintendent. And I think in some respects I disagree with Dr. Cooper as far as where the line was drawn. In a lot of respects I agree with him. Now, I can say you have a group of school board members who, even if Act 1 weren't there, I think we all share a philosophy of we recognize we don't have the expertise nor the time to get in and manage the day-to-day operations of the school system. We also recognize that we've hired an expert who does have the time to manage the day-to-day operations of the school system, and there's very little chance that any of us could do better than him. And so we're content now, as long as we're getting positive results, we're content to sit back and let him do it. I mean, and it's through the feedback of job performance, job evaluations, and annual feedback, as well as contract incentives written into his contract for him to meet specific benchmarks, that we've incentivized him, and in turn he incentivizes his principals to focus on what truly matters in the education of the students. And as far as I can say, I think he's doing a phenomenal job, and I would expect that to continue, not only in that aspect, but also his relationship with the school board and the way the school board approaches school system management.
if you have an, it's a great time for you to ask that question about where you might dealing with our educational system. And of course, we're certainly happy that we have people like Justin that came into this last election and was able to be elected. I know that they're doing a tremendous job of working this out. So if there's any question that you always want to ask, and maybe some of the questions before you came in, maybe they've already been discussed, but if there is a question, we can listen to the answer twice. It's not going to hurt us. So if you want to come up and ask a question, I know that you keep up with it. I know this gentleman keeps up with education in Lafayette Parish and a couple of others. That's right. Ed, thanks a lot.
Thanks for being here, Justin.
Sure thing.
As some of you may have known, I used to teach at Carencro High School, and I don't know if you mentioned how they're doing in their grading, but I'd like you to mention it when you get up here. But I'm curious about, I know Mr. Roebuck, that used to be the principal, has been moved to another school. I'm not sure if it's a charter school. Is it a charter school? Yeah, okay. I'd like to know what kind of influence the charter schools are having on our system. I know in some cases they don't function quite as well or not as efficient as the public school system, and there's a lot of back and forth about that between Democrats and Republicans. And I don't want to get into all the political stuff about it, but I want to know what effect is the charter schools having? How many do we have? And are they draining money? What's going on with that? And if you could just kind of let us know.
Sure. Unfortunately, I don't think if you want to talk about charter schools, I don't know if you can avoid the politics of the situation.
I'll go with that.
Carencro High School is a D high school right now. They grew a small but meaningful amount this year. I think Mr. Roebuck leaving, they had a change in administrators. Ms. Crawley is now the principal, and I think they're give her another year to really get the school moving in the right direction. I think Mr. Roebuck did a fine job while he was there, but always that change in administration gets a little bit of a change in culture, and you've got to give the school a little bit of time to adjust and get moving in the right direction. As far as the charter schools go, they have 3 charter schools right now, and they have 2 organizations who have charter applications pending before the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education at the state level. And there's one of the charter organizations that has approval for a high school but has not been given the go-ahead to build it and open it yet. So we kind of still have the same charter situation in Lafayette Parish that we had two and a half years ago, where we have the 3. They've been enrolling additional students each year as the years go on. I think the charter schools in Youngsville and Corrette Farms on Point de Mouton, I think this year or next year is the last year that they're going to open an additional grade. And so you're going to be seeing somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I want to say 1,500 students at those 2 charter schools right there. As far as the performance or the effectiveness or the efficiency of a charter school, I don't necessarily, I'll tell you this much, I don't necessarily pay attention to it, because what I do know is that if they're not doing a good job, the parents are going to come back over here to us. The parents tell me all I need to know about how the school is doing, because if they keep sending their kids there, must be doing a good job, right? If they're not doing a good job, the parents are going to go looking for something better. So how they found the charter schools in the first place is they were either in private schools or they were in the public school system, and somebody wasn't meeting their needs to the level of their satisfaction, so they went looking for something else. My job is to figure out, when they go looking for something else, what do I need to do them? Who do I need to get them into my door so that I can educate their children, because I believe we do the best job in Lafayette Parish of educating kids. That's my belief. And I'll put some of our programs up against anybody and say, look, this is the best education your child's going to get. And if they don't want to come to our schools, that's fine too. I mean, I'm a full-throated supporter of parental choice. I think they're the best feedback we're ever going to get on how we're doing as a school system. And I think over the past couple of years, we've started to really move the needle as far as parents being ready to give public education a chance and being supportive of what we're trying to do.
Alan, you have any questions?
I apologize. I walked in late, so I didn't hear any of what you said. I am sorry.
You've heard it all before.
Yeah, you said that Karen Crowe High was a D school. I know we have several D schools in the district. Can you let the public know how many D schools we do have in the district? And I know that there was an extended day program that was started at the elementary level to help kids who were behind, help them to get caught up, and I think it's done very well. Dr. Aguilar is doing a great job. He's working very hard. He brought on a team of educators who target children who have fallen behind and help them to get caught up and stuff. And they really are working hard. I want y'all to know that. But we do have several D schools, and although our district might be a B district, I'm not going to be satisfied. I'm not a parent in the school system anymore, but I'm not going to be satisfied as a community person until all of our schools are succeeding, either B or A. That's what I would love to see, and it's going to take some time to do that. But how many schools are D schools, and what are we going to do, or what is Dr. Aguilar and his team going to do to target those schools that are still D schools?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head. If I'm not mistaken, we have 6 D schools.
I wasn't sure if it was 6 or 7.
It's either 6 or 7. I know for a fact that J.W. Falk, Lafayette Middle School, Alice Boucher, Karen Crowe Heights, Karen Crowe High, Northside High. There may be one more, but I can't think of it. Anyway,
We would know.
those 6 are definitely D schools. Now, to your point about what we're doing to target those D schools, the second most important person in the school system is named Irma Trusclair. She is our school, her title is School Improvement Administrator. And what we did last year, what Dr. Aguilar did, he asked us for the funding to do this, and we agreed, is she was the former principal of South Crowley Elementary School, and before that, Eunice Elementary School. And these were 2 very high poverty elementary schools that were not achieving the way that their school boards would have liked. And at Eunice Elementary School, she turned it from an F school to an A school in 3 years. In South Crowley Elementary School, she turned it from an F school to an A school in 2 years. She got recognized by the White House for running a blue ribbon school where kids achieve regardless of their backgrounds. And so what Dr. Aguilar did was he recognized talent, and he said, look, you're able to do this at a single school. Obviously, you have some kind of plan that you know how to implement. Please come and do it in our school system. What we will give you the opportunity to do is to see if you can do it at 3 schools at a time. Obviously, you can do it at 1. Let's see if you can do it at 3. Right? And that's kind of the point, is when you have somebody who has a plan that works, let's see if you can make it work on a larger scale. Let's see what the limits are to what you can do. And so he gave her J.W. Falk, gave her Alice Boucher, gave her Karen Crowe Heights Elementary School. And earlier I mentioned that J.W. Falk was named by the State Department of Education as a top gained school this year, after 1 year of working with her. And so I bring this up to say, if there's anybody in the school system you'd like to follow and see what they're doing, see what she's doing. Because she is a highly motivating individual. If you hear her speak, you're going to be ready to go teach. It's a joy to hear her passion for helping young children learn and achieve and not fall behind. And probably the best testament that I can give is that when we hired her to come and be in charge of these schools, we had an influx of applications from teachers from South Crowley Elementary School who wanted to follow her wherever she went. They said, we don't care what you're doing, we want to work for you. So I don't know of any greater compliment that you can pay a manager than to have a completely devoted workforce that comes along with her, right? That's great. So that's what we're going to do. And that's what Dr. Aguilar is going to do, to focus on those schools that need improvement the most.
I'm glad to hear that, and he's right. Irma Trusclair is a wonderful lady, and she is working very hard. That's who I was referring to. Money well spent on the school board's part. Since I wasn't here, did you talk about any possible taxes on the ballot or anything?
No, I didn't talk about that.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, it's something that needs to be considered, and I wanna know, you know, what the school board's, plans are. I know they're probably gonna meet this, on the 7th of December to decide if they're going to put a tax on the ballot for April. So y'all come to the meetings, ask questions and stuff. But I'm just gonna tell you this, Justin, the public, you know, we know that the schools are deplorable. They need a lot of upgrading. We need to change a lot of things with how the schools look because they're falling apart, okay? But we want to know, I want to know, and I hope I speak for a lot of people, that the school board does have a plan. I know they have the 2020 vision, and it's a good plan. You can look at it online at the lpssonline.com. But monies, have y'all figured out where y'all are going to allocate monies? Because for me, I want to know that y'all do have a plan, and it's not just a one-sided plan for buildings and stuff. I want to know that this board has considered the whole title. The education, the academic part, the school part, everything, raises for our teachers, whatever. Looked at all of that and figured out what you're gonna do 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. Because we've given our money to the school system and to other things in the past and have been so disappointed. You know, and I'm tired of getting disappointed. I just wanna know that we have people that are being mindful and thoughtful about how they're going to spend the money that we give. Thank you.
Sure, so to clarify, what's going to happen on Wednesday night is not a decision on whether we will put a tax on the ballot in April.
Okay.
It is a procedural, it gets very complicated, I give you that. By law, what we have to do is we have to have an item on our agenda that says we intend to have a meeting to decide whether to put an item on the ballot in April. Now that meeting will be, I'm looking at your face, right? That's what we have to do. It's written in the state legislature in their infinite wisdom said this is what you guys have to do. And so we will have that item on our agenda Wednesday. It says that we are going to have a meeting in January where we vote to decide whether to put a tax on the ballot. I agree with you. We have a plan. I mean, we have the plan that we paid for 6 years ago, that we paid to update last year. That's a part of the Vision 2020 plan. We have a facilities plan, and really the question becomes at some point in time is the taxpayers of Lafayette Parish, how much or like what size funding plan are you willing to fund? If it's zero, that's fine. I mean, you know, we're gonna just keep on the way we are. If it's $50 million, well then we can replace $50 million of portable buildings. Yeah, there's no shortage of ways, effective ways to spend building money. You know, as far as the whole kit and caboodle, I firmly believe that we have all the money we need to run the school system. The operations, the employees, the teachers, everything. All the money we need to run the school system. There's very little money for buildings. We have some, and we have recently bonded that money out and built a high school. We're going to build a new elementary school in Broussard. We're adding a wing at Milton Elementary School, and some buildings at Como High to support the Performing Arts Academy. So there's no shortage. You don't get a second shot at this.
No, it's a different one.
It's a different one.
different
So
question.
there's no shortage of effective ways to spend building, I guess is what I'm saying. And it's more of a, is there a desire on the taxpayers' part to get rid of portable buildings or to have children go to school in buildings that aren't 60, 70 years old? I mean, that's really it. You know, and if there's no desire or if there's not a sentiment among the taxpayers that we need to replace these buildings and these portable classrooms faster, that's okay. We'll make do.
Honestly, I think the public does see that there is a need to upgrade our buildings and stuff. In my opinion, it's a matter of trust. We you have to have the public's trust and
Can I say-
believe
because I
that
meant to- I
y'all are
meant to
gonna
answer
do
that. You
what
said-
y'all say y'all gonna do.
Well, you said it, and I forgot to answer that. Now, I'll say this, you know, I've said this on several occasions before where I was just a regular guy before I did this, and I was not really accustomed to being, to the mistrust that comes along with being an elected official. And so I wasn't accustomed to having to repeat myself, and then when I'd say something, somebody would look at me and go, but really? You say that now? And I'm like, well, I say that now, yeah, well, that's what I mean. You know, so yeah, I get it. We have a big hole to dig out of it as far as public perception and public trust. The only thing that I can say is that I think and I believe in my heart of hearts that this school board has done the best that it could possibly do. We haven't shied away when something was unpopular. We haven't shied away from some kind of tough decision that needed to be made. That's the best I can do. We've laid teachers off because we didn't have enough money. And in the past, I think what some school boards would have done was they would have, I know the previous school board for sure rated their capital improvements budget, which was meant to, you know, fix leaking roofs and things of that nature, just so they wouldn't have to lay any employees off. And let me tell you, when we have budget time comes around and we're laying employees off, they come to the meetings, and the people that are getting laid off come to the microphone. They tell you, I'm going to be out of a job if you vote to cut this part of the budget. And unfortunately for those people, the money's just not there, and so, you know, we did it anyway, even though it's very, very difficult. If any of you have ever had to lay somebody off as a manager or a business owner, or you know, make some kind of decision that impacts a family's life, it's an exceptionally difficult thing to do. But as I tell people all the time, I say, you know, look, I have a pile of jelly beans, and everything we do as a school system costs jelly beans, right? So it's 4 jelly beans for a bus, and it's 2 jelly beans for a teacher. It's like, when I'm out of jelly beans, I can't buy any more, you know? And so it's just, hopefully we'll continue to do so, but I feel very strongly that we've tried to demonstrate that the taxpayers can trust this school board to the best that we have, to the best of our capabilities.
You know, I've disagreed with y'all every now and again and stuff, but I want you to know you do have my respect, and I know that y'all are working hard, all of y'all on that board. I see that because I do go to the meetings. Like I said, I wasn't here earlier, so I don't know if you talked about the alternative school. You mentioned charter schools and stuff. I know that Lafayette Parish was talking about creating an alternative school, and I know it's probably going to be at the La Rosen Center. Is that?
I think it's going to be at the Career Center.
Can you kind of elaborate on that for the public? And when it comes to NPMOS, it's an F-rated school. I don't think anyone can expect.
It's never going to be anything but an F-rated school.
Right, and but I'd like to see things change at that school a little bit and stuff. So thank you.
All right, so the alternative school that she's talking about is to our graduation rate, where I said, just because they're not in that 25% doesn't mean they're leaving the school system. They're going into the world with nothing. The children, this alternative school, what it is going to target, this is going to be a school. We had a school like this called Lafayette Charter High School for several years, where the target audience, the children that they were looking to serve, are overage high school students. So you're talking about your 16-year-old ninth grader, or your 19 or 20-year-old junior or senior, where the kids who we know for a fact they get to ninth grade, like I said before, get to ninth grade behind and you're very likely to drop out. Those are the kids we're looking for. They've already dropped out. They're not even in school anymore. We want to bring them back, and the way the school works is that they have a very flexible schedule. They have classes from noon to 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night, and a very flexible schedule for these kids, because in a lot of cases they're already out, they're already living on their own, they already have jobs, things like that. So they have a very flexible schedule so that these kids can continue their education and get their diploma. And you know, I don't want to say unfortunately, but this doesn't count as towards our graduation rate. Graduating a child from that school doesn't help our graduation rate one tick, because that child didn't graduate in 4 years. But it's the right thing to do. And like I said earlier, I think in a lot of cases, getting that child to graduate with a high school diploma is an infinitely better dollar spent as far as long-term outlook, not only for the child, but for your community. Because as I often say, we're either gonna pay for the child now, or we're gonna pay for the child later, right? We can educate them now, or we can incarcerate them later, one of the two. And you spend that money now and get them with a high school diploma, get them to the point where they have a skill, can get a job, support themselves, have a family, and contribute to society. I think that's a dollar I'd rather spend any day of the week.
Jackie, was there a question that you may have had?
Yeah.
I'll bring the microphone to you, Ms. Jackie.
I didn't intend to talk. I never intend to talk.
Yeah, what's
There's
up?
always something to talk about. First and foremost, I was here about maybe 6 weeks ago when we had all the youngsters come to the forum. Did they come from Indy?
Who was it?
And what did they do? I didn't see them do anything, but I saw them.
What's the name of the lady that had those 7 or 8 youngsters here, north side?
Oh, Erica Williams,
Oh, yeah.
awesome lady.
Yes.
You send it back?
Where were they from?
Northside High School.
What?
Northside High School.
North side.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's the school I'm thinking of, I believe. It's where they take the children that are not doing well and try to do something with them there.
No, the school you're thinking of
That's
is.
in Piedmont.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. But I think there ought to be more of that, bringing the children out and let them get out in the public, let them see people. I really think we ought to have speakers go to the school who are successful. It wouldn't hurt to have even some politicians go. They might find out what they need to know about that. So I want to ask you too about the Civil Air Patrol. You know we have Civil Air Patrol on Monday nights, and I don't know how often, but out at the airport. And does anybody here know if it's a very good program?
I do not know.
I think it would be worth looking into. My husband, who's dead and gone, but he did that when he was like 14 years old.
That's awesome.
And when he went into the Navy, guess what they did? They put him with the airplanes. I mean, he already had a heads up for doing that.
That's great.
And I think any kind of education we can give them, the better it will be. Yes.
We got a clown over there, I'm sorry.
Is that Kathy's clown?
No, that's my clown.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else to say.
I'll give you a comment about that along those lines. One of the things that this school board did, and we're very, very proud of it, and you're going to get to see it if you watch the meeting on Wednesday night. Wednesday's the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And one of the things that we did was we really put some funding behind our Navy Junior ROTC and our Air Force Junior ROTC programs. They had kind of languished as far as enrollment went, to the point where the Navy had cut some funding because we had dropped below the threshold needed for funding from the Navy. And so what we did was we actually made those programs schools of choice. So any student in the parish, we didn't have to open an ROTC program at every school. If you wanted to be a part of the junior ROTC, you could now, from anywhere in the parish, go to Acadiana High or go to Como High School and join those programs. I'm proud to say that the Navy Junior ROTC program is back up over 100 students at Como, which means we now get funding from the Navy to help us pay an additional instructor. And I think the Air Force Junior ROTC program at Acadiana is up around 85 students now, up from around 55 when we took office at Acadiana, the Air Force Junior ROTC. And one of the things we do to promote those programs is before every one of our meetings, the students from one of those programs presents the colors at our meeting. So along the lines of the Civil Air Patrol, I agree with you wholeheartedly that an extracurricular activity that introduces
Do you
discipline.
know how many go there or how many students they got going to that Civil Air Patrol?
I have no idea. I have no idea, but I agree with you that
Do you know?
I don't.
No.
I agree with you though. Any kind of extracurricular activity that gives the students a little discipline and a taste of the real world, I think is a worthwhile activity.
Now, is there a band at MP Moss? Do they have a band instructor?
I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. So the point of MP Moss is not for a student to go to school there for the entire year. Students go to MP Moss whenever they have some kind of discipline issue at their regular school, and they go to MP Moss until the administrators and the teachers at MP Moss determine that they have addressed whatever issue the student was having discipline-wise, and then the child goes back to his regular school. So it's part of the reason why MP Moss will rarely, if ever, get above an F status, because the children that are at MP Moss, they have they have needs that need to be addressed so they can learn, that are preventing them from learning and preventing them from being successful in the classroom. And we're addressing those needs there outside of their regular school. Yes, ma'am.
One of the ladies that works for me had a grandson who had a beautiful, are you looking at your dad?
I wish she was just looking at it, making faces and swinging her napkin around.
Okay. Had a really nice voice. He would have been a good radio announcer or TV. He had the smoothest, nicest voice you could ever hear. And I wished that at that time I hadn't been working so much myself. I wish I could have gotten a hold of him and got him so he could go into communication, because he had everything for it, and he wasn't a whiz at school, but he was good enough, better than a lot of people. And I just wish that they could have done that. I see where they're giving a scholarship now through the KATC or KLFY in communication. Is there any encouragement for any of the kids to check into that or see about it?
Absolutely.
Y'all working on that?
Yes, ma'am. We one of our high school academies is the Academy of Broadcast Journalism at Northside. I encourage you. 93. I can't remember. I never can remember. 93.1 FM, KNHS. The students have their own. It's a student-run radio station based at Northside High School, and they do on the weekends. I think they do syndicated programming. Nobody's there on the weekends. They just rebroadcast something nationally.
That makes them feel involved.
But absolutely, before and after school though, those kids are in there. They're hosting the programs and playing the music and doing things that get them accustomed to working in broadcasting and communications, like you said.
Now, since there have been times when they're really short of money. I mean, you can look at me. But in my day at school, we only had 11 grades. And we still had time to do a work program. And like we went to the Five and Dime store, or we worked at a bookstore where we bound books, and we worked for Dudley LeBlanc addressing envelopes. We got some money out of that. And I just think that's a good thing. And do they really need to have 12 grades?
Yeah.
Do you think so? Somebody said yes. I don't know. We have a lot of very smart people who didn't go past, they went to 11th grade and they graduated. They were out of there. They were 17 or 18 years old. And they were too old to stand up and talk back to teachers, like some of them do.
That's true. I guess I've never really thought about whether we need 12 grades or not. It's been like that ever since I can remember. So
What's that?
that we've had 12 grades. I
Well,
mean, I don't think I've ever even thought about that question.
We didn't need it because we were too smart.
Well, I mean, the kids today we
didn't
watch.
need but 11
Well, we
grades.
watch too much TV. We play too much video games. We gotta take that extra year to make sure we learn everything that you guys learned at 11.
That was granddad's
Well, and I would make this argument that the people who only went to school for 8 grades, 9 grades, or 10 grades are very intelligent. We're going to be very intelligent whether they went to school for 11 years, 12 years, 13 years. I think that was probably just the natural talent they had.
Oh, I don't think we had any dropouts.
No, I guess
I
not.
really
No.
don't think so. I think the only thing we had was during World War II. A lot of the kids quit school in the 10th grade. This is war. But when they came back, we had a principal, was he a superintendent chaplain? And he saw to it that the boys that had quit school could go back and get their education
That's great.
and graduate.
I'll tell you this, I don't know the answer to your question, but I'm gonna say yes, we do need 12 grades. I don't know. Worked out for me. I'm gonna say it worked out for me, so we need 12 grades.
Yeah. You think you're smarter.
No, I don't think I'm smart.
I don't mean that.
I'm saying I needed all 12 years to get this smart.
I didn't mean that.
Look, just because you can do it in 11, I needed 12. Don't make me any dumber.
And I was so glad when I got out.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot more. We've discovered a few things, right?
What did she say?
Like the word computer.
Yeah, that's right, that's
That
right.
would be a way you could.
That whole extra year is learning how to use a computer.
Oh Lord, that's what I needed.
That's right. So you should have had 12 years.
We didn't even have them then, though.
Is there another question out there? We certainly want you to come up and answer that question. Justin, you've certainly been able to answer most of the questions that he's being asked, and we appreciate that very much. If there's not any questions, we still have a little business meeting right after this, but I'd like to end the meeting with thank y'all for coming, and we'll certainly round of applause for this gentleman.
Thank you very much for having me. I always enjoy speaking with you guys.
Before we go to the next one, would you just come to mind?
Oh, that's right. So on December 19th?
December 19th, right.
December 19th, you guys have your social at 6 or 6:30?
Make it 6.
Okay, all right. Well, what I'll do is I'll have my monthly meeting that I have usually at one of the schools. We'll have it here, and hopefully we'll get a few people to come out and we'll visit and have a nice evening before Christmas. So hopefully I'll see you guys again in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.